I think it's about time I make my return. Hey everybody, Gustola here, and I'm here to bring you my no-frills review of Solaris Offworld Combat for the Quest. Solaris Offworld Combat is a 4v4 fast-paced arena shooter that is available for both the Quest and the Rift S, but for the sake of expediency, we're going to be talking about the Quest version only. Now, this 4v4 arena shooter is billed as an esport title that claims to be esport ready right out of the box, and whether or not I feel that's true, I don't think it's a good idea for a developer to automatically label their game as such, because an esport community is just that. It is a community of people who have valued and deemed a game as an esport title. And most games that I've seen that have done this, that have billed themselves as esports ready right out of the gate, are dead in less than a year. Whether or not Solaris suffers the same fate is something you'll have to discover at the end of the video. I'm pretty cynical in nature, so for these reviews, I'm going to cover the cons first. The first thing that you'll notice is that this game is not a true 6DOF title. It's more akin to a 3DOF title. And what I mean by that is, when you move your head side to side or you try to crouch or duck or lean, you don't actually move your character in-game as you would expect to in real life. Because in a true 6DOF title, when I move my head down to crouch, I actually crouch in-game. I can lean my head around a corner, I can peek, I can do all that stuff like I would be able to do in real life. But in a 3DOF game, when you try to do all of those things, you get the sensation that your head is moving, but the game view of yours is fairly static. Nothing really happens. You're just kind of moving your head in real life, but the screen itself is more or less staying the same, and it's really jarring, and kind of backwards for a game like this. There is no other first-person VR shooter that I have played that plays like this, that is artificially limited in this way. What's made even more strange and unappealing is the fact that your left hand is not controlled. So you can move your right hand around, and your right hand has the gun in it and everything, and you can aim and shoot just fine. That feels actually pretty great, and we'll get to that later. But your left hand doesn't do anything. Sure, you use your left hand to actually move around and press buttons to activate abilities and other things, but it's not tracked. In game, your left hand is automatically either plastered onto the gun itself, which feels awkward because your left hand in real life is somewhere over to your left somewhere, just kind of, holding the controller. You can't actually hold these guns that require two hands with your other hand, which just feels so very odd. It's almost like this game was made to be an Oculus Go system seller, because the Oculus Go had only 3DOF and it only had one controller. Now, I know it wouldn't actually work very well for the Oculus Go, but it feels like it could. Another thing I find pretty inexcusable for a fairly competitive 4v4 arena shooter in VR that has online multiplayer is the fact that you cannot play with your friends, at least on day one. At the time of this review, you cannot party up with your friends. There's just matchmaking, going in solo, hoping you get a decent team, and that's it. That is it. Esports my butt. And how about the fact that there's only one game mode? It's kind of a mix between, say, Control from Destiny and King of the Hill, and then you mix that together, and that's it. And it's a fairly good mode itself, like, I enjoy playing it, but that's all there is. It's just one mode, and then to top that off, there's only a few maps. The maps themselves aren't bad, but once again, I was expecting more, because at the end of the day, this launch title for the Quest and for the Rift S, it cost $25, and honestly at this point, I'm going to put that as a con too. It cost too much for what we have, for the bare bones content that they launched with. This feels like a paid beta or an early access title, not the esports ready title that they're selling. Allow me to put it this way, I was able to experience all of what this game had to offer in about an hour of playtime. So in that hour, I was able to experience every single piece of content this game could give me in terms of weapons, in terms of power-ups, in terms of modes, in terms of maps, and I don't know what to say other than I am incredibly underwhelmed in that regard. However, in an effort to stave off my ever-looming depression over this game, let's talk about some pros. I actually like how this game looks. It's a mix between, say, Tron and Echo VR. And while the Quest version is pared back in some regards, especially in terms of effects and particle effects, it's still a very nice looking game and one of the nicest looking games on the Quest itself. The Quest 2 version is probably going to look a lot more like the PC VR version on the Rift S, and I'm very excited for that. That's going to be really cool to see. I also highly appreciated the way the game sounds. Yes, looks are important, but sounds are as well. The music played in the match always helps get my blood pumping. I especially like the way guns sound, especially during a firefight when you and some other guy are facing off trying to nail each other's heads multiple times. I really enjoy the way the hit markers sound. When you hit somebody in the head, the way it sounds like it's hitting an empty tin can. I love it. It's perfect. It is a perfect headshot sound. Other games could take some notes on that. Or how when somebody has some armor on them and you shoot them, it has this kind of muted sound to it, and it gives you some really good feedback. The sound in general gives you good feedback as to what your opponent is like health-wise, or where you're hitting them. And I dare say that if your game is going to go into esports, it's nice to have those little subtle features. Now, some of you might disagree with me on this one, but I actually like the gameplay. I find it fun moment to moment, and I kept playing match after match, even for the short amount of time that I played. I had a lot of fun. It's interesting how it plays too. It doesn't play like a full VR simulation like most VR games do. Like I said, there's a level of automation to it born from the fact that you can't really use your left hand outside of movement and other buttons, and you can't duck on your own. There's actually a button that allows you to crouch, and that goes into the sliding feature. The best way to describe it is it feels like I'm playing Halo on a console, but it's VR at the same time. So think of playing a shooter with a VR headset, but you're using a controller. It's kind of a lot like that, except for the key difference that you are aiming the gun yourself. Whether or not you win any individual fight is up to you and your ability to keep your hand still while pumping that trigger in order to down your foe and keep yourself and your team alive in order to achieve victory and win. And I like that. I like how that feels. It was a challenge at first to stop my cursor from going all over the place, and that's another thing. You're not using aim down sights with this. It's not that kind of VR shooter where you're aiming down your gun and you're lining up sights and then taking shots. No, you actually have a reticle. It actually is like an arcade console style shooter like Halo or Destiny, where you use the reticle to aim instead of your sights like any other normal, more realistic VR game. But, there is something about that I appreciate. It feels good. It reminds me of playing those games, but on a deeper, more personal level, because at the end of the day, it is still VR. And at the end of the day, and I know I've said this like 3 times already, but you are aiming the gun. So the skill ceiling is still quite high, because you have to land those headshots to really put them down quick. Remember how I mentioned that there is a button for crouching in a VR game? Oh, that's great, right? You think that'd be a con? But it actually works to your advantage most of the time. So, as you're running down a hallway, you'll hit the sprint button, which is clicking the left thumbstick, and then you hit the crouch button, and you do a slide, which is faster than sprinting and allows you to get in and out of cover quicker too. This is something that I have seen the better players utilize, and not only is it a useful skill to keep in mind when you're doing any kind of firefight, but it feels good too. It legitimately doesn't feel bad. It doesn't make me sick. It doesn't give me any kind of motion sickness or feel wonky or weird. It works. And another thing that I enjoy are the guns and the items that are littered across the map, Halo style, not Destiny style. You don't go into this game with a predetermined loadout. Nope, you have to rush to the spots that you know have the specific gun or power up on them, and then hope that you win any ensuing firefight from an opponent who is thinking likewise that they need to get there first. And maybe it's the Halo nostalgia trip talking, but I enjoyed the victory of those individual fights, and then getting my hands on an assault rifle that just absolutely wrecks, or a grenade launcher that can kill multiple people at once. The items and power-ups likewise also feel appropriate and not too out of place. They also feel useful. You have mines that you can litter all over the place. And then you have what is essentially a personal shield that you can deploy in front of you. You can kind of aim around it, and that has been so helpful. That's definitely one of my favorite items. Past that, you have your standard extra armor that you can run and get, and that can protect you from a few extra shots. A quick note on the pros of these weapons and items. There definitely needs to be more of them. I like what's here, and that's why I'm listing them as pros, but there needs to be more. I mean, more everything. Come on, guys. Come on, devs. Another thing I'm going to list as a pro is the simplicity of the combat itself. And by that I mean there isn't any reloading of any kind. Most of the guns that you have are either the ones that you pick up that have a limit to their ammo, to their ammunition, that when it's depleted, it just goes away. You drop it and then you bring your pistol back out. Your pistol doesn't do this though. Your pistol has unlimited shots, unlimited energy, no cooldown, no overheating, nothing of the sort. It's all action all the time, and in this way, I think it is a bit of a pro. Is it a bit too simplistic? Yes, but it feels good on a balance front with the little time that I've had with it. Maybe in the future they will give us guns that we can reload manually, but the offside of that is that those guns would be really, really powerful. Like say a sniper rifle, or some kind of railgun that does a one-shot body shot, or a shotgun that you have to pump or reload manually just to get a couple shots up every time. Something like that would be pretty neat. So devs, I hope you're watching. Another quick little pro that I do enjoy is the fact that there is a bit of progression already in the form of cosmetics that you earn as you level. They're really nothing to sneeze at, nothing too crazy out there, but it does give a little sense of prestige as you continue to play, as you continue to level and hopefully dominate. So here's my final thoughts before I give you a number score. There's a lot that I like about this game, but there's a lot of other baffling decisions that, man, make me shake my head. The game itself has a ton of potential, and not even as an esports title, but just as a fun arena shooter that doesn't really exist in any form on any VR headset as of this moment. Aside from some of the glaring design choices, what we have is actually pretty good. We just need a lot more of it. And this more of it, it better be free. If it's not free, we're gonna have some problems. Oh, and your game is probably going to be dead in less than a year? But that's only if the developers drop the ball from here on. They have a good chance to make it up to the people who haven't bought it and to satiate the people who have from this point going forward if they do everything right. So with a 5 being average out of 10, I'm gonna give this game, and it barely ekes it out, I'm gonna give it a 6 out of 10. It's just fun enough on its own merits, on its bare bone merits, that I actually find it a little bit above the average in terms of your normal average VR experience. A lot of VR games out there they lack a lot, let's just say that. A lot of them are just straight tech demos. This actually feels like a game, like a competitive game, like I'm playing multiplayer in Halo or Destiny. I mean, pared back obviously, but it does give me that sensation, and that is worth something at the very least. So let me know what you think in the comments down below. Whether or not you agree with me though, I would appreciate a like, a comment, maybe even subscribe if you want to see more VR reviews like this, just straight to the point stuff. I try not to do too much filler. Thank you for watching. I appreciate if you stuck with me this far into the video, and I will catch you in the next one.
We indubitably got it. Hell yeah, good teamwork. Hell yeah, GG's.
Yeah, that's great. GG's.